Hey y'all, good morning. We are going to have a good morning this morning. We're going to start off with making some bread. I thought I was recording, but apparently I was not. Anyways, we're going to make some whole wheat honey bread, and I've already gotten started because I thought I was recording. So I'm just going to tell you what I've got going on. This week we're going to be doing breads and breakfasts. We're going to do our favorite loaf and a couple of our favorite breakfasts. And I'm going to throw in a dessert at the end. So what I've got going on here with the bread is I've got my yeast blooming in 3/4 of a cup of water with 1 tablespoon of honey and 1 packet of yeast. In here I've got 3 tablespoons of honey, a cup of water, and some oil. You can do vegetable oil. I'm doing coconut oil. Either will work just fine as long as it's a neutral flavored oil. So now, since my yeast is bloomed and ready to go, I'm going to add in some salt to my mixer here, about 1/2 tablespoon. And I'm going to set this salt to the side so we can have a little bit more room to work. And I've got some whole wheat and some all-purpose flour here that we're going to add in to this batter. And for starters, I'm going to add in some whole wheat flour. I'm going to add in about 1.5 cups. Okay. And I'm going to get this started. I'm going to turn this mixer on and slowly add in my yeast mixture, and then we'll add in our flour. Okay, I've got that mixed in, and now I'm going to add in about 1.5 to 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to start at 1.5 cups, and if we need that extra 1/2 cup, we'll add that in, plus a little more if you need it. It depends on how much humidity is in the air. So we're going to get this started. Okay, so this has been going for just a few minutes, about 2 minutes, and it's already coming together. It's still quite sticky, so I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon at a time until this dough comes together and it pulls away from the side of the pan, the bowl here. And then I'm just going to let this knead for about 7 to 10 minutes until it all becomes nice and cohesive and elastic. All right, so this has been going for about 7 minutes, and it's nice and still quite tacky, but that's the way that I want it. You can add a little bit more flour to it if you want. I want this loaf to be nice and fluffy and a nice little crust on the outside. So I'm just going to shape this into a ball, and I've got a bowl here that I've just got lightly greased with some avocado oil. I'm just going to add that down there and coat both sides with that oil. And I'm going to put some plastic wrap over this, and I've got my oven light on, and I'm just going to put that in there and let this rise for about an hour until it's doubled in size. All right, so the bread dough doubled in size, and I just punched it down, shaped it, and put it in my little loaf pan here. And I've got my oven coming up to 375 degrees. So I'm just going to go ahead and cover this with plastic wrap, and I'm going to put this on the oven so it stays nice and warm while this doubles in size. And as soon as the oven comes to temperature, we're going to pop this in the oven. We're going to cook this for about 35 to 45 minutes, just until the bread is nice and golden and completely cooked through. All right, so while the bread is baking in the oven, we're going to go ahead and make some breakfast. So this is an old school recipe. It's super easy. I call them lazy eggs, but they're kind of like baked eggs. They're so easy and customizable to how you would want them. So I've got a couple ramekins here, and I've just got them liberally buttered. And I've got some eggs, And I'm just going to crack my eggs and put one in each ramekin. Now I'm going to season with some salt and pepper. And I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of cream per egg. You can do 2 tablespoons of cream if you want to. I'm just going to do 1. And I've got some cheese here. I like to use Parmesan cheese or cheddar cheese, but you can do any kind of cheese that you like. And you can add as much or as little as you want. So I'm just going to add some cheese right on top. And that is it. These are going to go in the oven at 375 degrees, the same temperature as the bread. And these are going to cook until however you like your eggs. I like mine a little bit runny, so I'm going to do about 20 minutes. But you can cook these for anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 to 35 minutes, just depending on how you like your eggs. So I'm going to get these in the oven, and I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Alright, you guys, here are the eggs. I just took them out of the oven. They are super duper hot, so I'm just going to leave them here on this little pad here, and I'm going to let them cool a little bit because that cheese is like molten lava when it's hot. So I'm just going to let them cool, and then I will slice up some bread, get that toasted, and we'll have some breakfast. All right, y'all, here are these delicious baked eggs. If you have never had eggs this way, you are going to love these. These are so delicious, and they're, like I said, they're customizable to however you like your eggs. I like to pair this with some toast and some fresh fruit, but you can pair this with whatever you want. But I highly recommend you try these. They are so, so good. Alright, the bread is fresh out of the oven, and before I took it out of the loaf pan, I just rubbed it down with some butter, and then I let that sit in the pan for a few minutes, and then I just turned it out onto a wire rack, and I let it cool completely. Now, I sliced this up because I was craving a sandwich with some fresh bread, and that is what I made for dinner. I just had a simple ham and cheese sandwich for dinner with a side of chips. Super simple, delicious, and everybody in the family loves it. All right, we're going to be making some delicious pancakes. This is my grandmother's recipe. This is her recipe for wild rice pancakes. They are so good and super, super easy to make. I went ahead and cooked some wild rice. It takes about 40 minutes or so to cook wild rice. So I went ahead and cooked that, and I've just got it draining over a pan here to get all of that water out. And they're going to sit there and cool while we make our batter. So we're going to start with the dry ingredients. I've got just plain flour in here, and we're going to add some salt and some baking soda. And we're just going to mix this together until it's well combined. You don't want any lumps of baking soda because I've chomped down on a big old bite of just pure baking soda, and it's not very pleasant to bite down into. It's kind of bitter. So make sure that's all nice and combined. I'm going to set that right there, and we're going to work on the wet mixture. So I've got some milk here. I've got 1 cup of milk. And I've got a 1/4 cup of buttermilk. Now the buttermilk is going to react with the baking soda, and it's going to help the pancakes rise a little bit better, but you can do whole milk. And I've got some sugar. And we're going to crack in an egg. And some vanilla. Now these aren't too sweet because we're typically you add, your toppings on the top of your pancakes, like syrup and whatnot. But so I don't like a very sweet pancake, but you could certainly add more sugar. And the recipe that's on my blog is I'm halving the recipe. So the recipe that's on my blog is the full recipe. So I'm just going to mix this together. Make sure that egg is nice and broken up and combined into that liquid. Now, I'm just going to move some of this stuff out of the way. And I'm going to add, I've cooked a half a cup of rice because I can eat some with some salad later. So I'm just going to add some of this rice into my flour mixture here. You can add the whole thing if you want. And I'm just going to mix this together and get that rice coated in that flour. And it's just going to help that rice not fall to the bottom of the batter and burn on the pan. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and add our wet mixture into our dry mixture. And I'm going to mix this up until it's well combined. And make sure that you scrape the bottom of that bowl so you get all the flour off the bottom. And you don't want to over mix it. So as soon as the batter comes together, you can stop mixing. If there's a few tiny little clumps of flour in there, that's fine. It'll cook out when we cook them. So I'm going to let this sit here and hang out while I preheat my skillet. Alright, so I've got my skillet preheated, and I'm just going to add some butter to my pan. Alright, so I've got my batter here, and I'm using a little scoop to measure out my batter because I want them all to be kind of uniformly in size. And I'm just going to plop these down, and I'm going to let these cook just a few minutes on each side before I flip them. Once you see the bubbles in the middle come up and they don't fall back on themselves, it should take about, depending on how thick your batter is, it should take between 3 to 5 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. And once you see that, you can go ahead and flip them over. Now, typically, I save pancakes for the weekend because during the week I eat more of a high protein breakfast. So these are definitely a treat for Sunday breakfast, Saturday mornings. You can cook these during the week if you want to. It's completely up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and let these finish up, and then I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Alright, so I've got a small little pan here, and I'm going to heat up some blueberries. I got half of a cup of blueberries here that I'm just going to add in here. Now, you can add some sugar to this if you want it sweeter. I'm just going to leave it as is. And I'm going to grab a fork because I'm going to smash these when they get warm. And it's going to release all of their beautiful flavor and their juices. So I'm just going to let these go here for a couple of minutes, smash them with a fork, and then this is ready to go. Now, you don't have to do this. You can just serve fresh blueberries on the side or whatever you want to go with your pancakes. But I love doing this on things like cottage cheese, toast, pancakes, waffles. It's really, really delicious.
All right, here are these delicious pancakes. I love wild rice pancakes. They are just so different from the regular pancakes. They offer such a different flavor, but they are absolutely delicious. And you can add whatever toppings you like. My daughter likes fresh fruit. My husband likes peanut butter, but we all enjoy maple syrup. So this is what I had today was the pancakes, stewed fruit, and a little bit of maple syrup, and it was so delicious.
All right, you guys, today we're going to be making two different recipes. I'm going to make a breakfast recipe and a dessert. I'm going to start with the dessert first because it's got to cool. So we're going to be making some tahini blondies. These are so good. This is not my recipe. I will try to find this recipe online for you guys. If not, the book will be linked in my shop my book section on my down in my description box. So we're going to be doing this in 2 separate bowls, but you can do this in one bowl if you want to. In this bowl, I've got some flour, and I'm going to go ahead and add in my other ingredients. I've got some baking powder, some cardamom, salt and pepper, toasted black sesame seeds, toasted white sesame seeds, and I'm just going to mix this together until everything's nice and combined. And I'm going to set that to the side. And now we're going to work on our wet ingredients. I've got some brown sugar here, and I've got a stick of melted butter here that I've just melted and cooled because you don't want it to scramble your eggs. And I've got some eggs here. I'm just going to break these in. And I'm going to mix this together until it's pretty well combined. Alright, before I mix this in with my flour, I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla to my wet mixture here and give that a little mix. Okay, now so I'm just going to add this in to my dry ingredients. And now I'm just going to kind of mix this together until it's almost combined. Okay, and now I've got some tahini here. You can use any brand that you like. And I'm just going to add all of this delicious tahini in here. I always have tahini on hand. I love it. And now I'm just going to mix all of this together until it's well combined. Alright, so I've got a 9x9" pan. I want mine a little bit more on the thin side today, but if you want them a little bit thicker, you can do this in a 8x8" pan. And I've just got it greased and lined with parchment paper. I'm just going to add this batter right in here and kind of spread it out as even as I can get it. This batter smells so good. I can smell that cardamom and tahini. If you've never tried tahini blondies, they're so delicious. But I like this recipe here because it's got the crunch of the sesame seeds in there. Absolutely love it. So I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to pop these in the oven. And we're going to cook these for about 25 to 30 minutes, depending. Mine will take a little bit less time since they're a little bit on the thinner side. So I'm going to start checking these around 20 minutes. And then when a toothpick inserted into the center of these brownies come out clean, we're going to take them out and we're going to let them cool in the pan for a few minutes. And then we'll take them out of the pan and put them on a wire rack and let them cool completely before we cut them. And I will show you what they look like when they're done. Alright, you guys, so we're going to start on the breakfast portion of this and kind of wrap up this video. I've got my brownies sitting here, or my blondies sitting here. They're cooling. So I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of olive oil to my pan here, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to add in potato and onion. Now I'm cutting this recipe in half, but you can double or triple this recipe if you have more people in your family. So I'm just going to add that in there, as well as some red pepper flakes, some coriander, turmeric, pepper, and some salt. Now I've got my heat down on medium-low. I'm going to turn it up just slightly. I'm going to give these a little mix, get it coated in all of those spices. Turmeric always adds such a nice bright yellow color to anything. It's beautiful. Plus it gives it a nice little flavor. Not much, because turmeric really isn't all that flavorful. It's more color based, but if you add too much, you will definitely know it. So I'm just going to let these sit here and hang out and cook up until they are nice and golden brown and cooked through. It should take about 10 to 12 minutes. Alright, so these potatoes are nice and tender and they've got some beautiful color on them. I'm going to go ahead and add in some garlic. We're just going to let this cook until that garlic is fragrant. It could take about 30 seconds. Now I'm going to add in the juice of 1 lemon. It calls for lime. I do not have lime. I'm going to use lemon juice because it's what I have on hand. Now I'm just going to give this a little toss to get those potatoes coated in that lemon juice. And I've got some eggs here that I've just got beaten in this bowl. And I'm just going to add these right into the pan and kind of let them spread out a little bit and start to cook. I'm going to turn my heat back up to about medium-low. I'm going to start scooting these potatoes and egg around the pan here. Now at this point I want to season my eggs, so I'm going to add a little bit more pepper and a little bit more salt. We're going to get this scrambled. Okay, now since this is a cast iron, I'm going to go ahead and cut my heat off. It will continue to cook the eggs. If you have a non-stick, you can just remove it from the heat. I've got some parsley and cilantro and dill mixture here. I'm just going to add all of that right in here and give this a little toss. Make sure it's all nice and coated. You don't want to overcook your eggs. And this is pretty much done. You can go ahead and plate this up.
Alright, you guys, here is this delicious breakfast. Now, like I said before, I love adding fresh fruit to my breakfast. It just makes it so much better to me. But this is kind of reminiscent of what I used to make as a teenager. I would do the eggs and the potatoes, salt and pepper, kind of mix it together, let it cook. But this was so delicious. I will leave all of the links to the books that I used down in the description box below for you guys so you can check those out. Alright, here are these delicious tahini blondies. These are so good. Tahini is a great swap for peanut butter if you or your loved one can't have peanuts. It's a great swap for that. And it just has the same flavor as peanut butter. But these were so good. I love the crunch of the toasted sesame seeds in there, and they just add that pop of deliciousness. That is going to wrap up this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment in the comment section down below, and hit that subscribe button if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.